design thesis we investigated was public spaces or antisocial spaces. And we started off by analysing the nature of the antisocial spaces in Brisbane CBD. What we found was most people tend to use mobile phones, they put headphones in, listen to music, or they, in some cases, read newspapers and magazines. There's very little interaction between people walking around in the city. The design installation is designed to get people to think about the social nature of the CBD. The idea is to get people communicating with random strangers and to get them to understand that the people walking side by side with you across something as simple as a bridge in the CBD could potentially be your future friends.
This is our installation, Get to Know Someone in 200 Metres. It's a series of signs that go along a bridge, and they encourage people to communicate and discuss different topics. Now we've set it up with some fairly specific questions that kind of open up later on so people can get a better picture of the other person, but also keep it very directed so they don't feel like they're cut short and they don't know what to say. So our first one is simply an introduction. We're opening up the possibilities that they have, and then we say very direct, very easy to do action. Just say hello as close as possible. A bridge was a really good location for us because it's a very confined space. And once you're in, you have to kind of keep on moving. It has a very specific purpose, and you're definitely not going to be there for fun. So it's a great place where we can kind of take the antisocial nature of it and kind of contrast it with a introduction and like a kind of call to interact with people on a more sociable and empathetic level.
So how was the installation set up?
The setup was pretty good. We had signs spaced out against the poles, which was very easy to attach them to. I think like the kind of rundown nature of the signs kind of added to it a bit. Like compared to like the very colourful kind of professional looking posters that most people have, ours kind of stood out a lot more, and they kind of felt a lot more kind of authentic and homegrown. They didn't really stand out in terms of colour or anything. So the signs looked kind of slightly bland. It was really hard to read the small text, so people kind of didn't engage with it because they had such little time to engage with it later on.
What was the reaction to the installations?
Well, when we were setting it up, people were really interested in what it was going to be. So we had a bunch of people crowding around us, and there was kind of a great atmosphere of like these kind of people all sharing kind of like this interest in this thing, which I thought was pretty cool. As it went on, people kind of stopped looking at it a lot more. Just most people walked past a lot, and if they did read it, we didn't get anyone actually following the instructions. Part of it was because people tended to stand spread out apart, like in their little clusters of their friend groups. But then again, like in these little friend groups, you had this kind of banter going about the signs, and people kind of like, hey, you should get to know someone in 200 meters. Like kind of jokingly, but it like they definitely thought about it in that regard.
Do you think the installation made people reflect on the thesis?
To an extent. Like the biggest problem was people not reading the final sign, which we had a very direct call to action at the end, saying that public spaces should be more social and interactive.